All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ESL Pro Series Season 11. I'm Pyrotechnics, joined by Azumo. How are you doing, man? Good to see you here.
Doing great, man. Looking forward to this Pro Series. It's a little bit of a different format than the Pro Series that we used to. It's just a one-weekend event, but there's a $20,000 prize pool. Every team that's in this top 8 is guaranteed at least $1,000, and there's some big-name teams that we're going to see today.
Absolutely. Teams like MSI Team Dragon Knights, Cloud9 are going to be playing first. Cloud9's new challenger team, G2A. It's going to be a really fantastic set of matches today. Going to be a pretty long one, I'm going to predict right now, so we'll take a look at how this tournament is shaking out. 16 teams entered, only 8 remain. 8 open bracket teams were facing off against 8 invites, but of course it's been broken down now into the quarterfinals, and each quarterfinalist, every team today, is going to go home with at least $1,000, but they double their prizes every win that they get.
Yeah, so these guys have a chance to really rack up their prize money pretty quickly, and all matches are best of 3 until the grand finals, which will be a best of 5, and of course, this is just a weekend-long tournament, so today will be the quarterfinals, followed by tomorrow, which will be the semifinals and grand finals. So we got a lot of League of Legends coming at us.
Absolutely. It's going to be a pretty fantastic day, and a lot of these teams, they have more than just those prizes on the line as well, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Take a look at the brackets we have today. Cloud9 G2A will be playing off against MSI Team Dragon Knights for our first match of today, followed by Ground 6, previously known as Team Fear, taking on Team 321.
And then in the second half of the day of these quarterfinals is going to be Fusion versus Storm. So Storm was a new team. We saw them in the NACL a little bit about a month ago. It's with Mandatory Cloud. And then, of course, Monster Kittens versus Enemy Esports, rocking a little bit of a new lineup for both those guys. That's going to be the last match of the day. So really exciting stuff. And the first match, of course, being between Cloud9's B team, or they want to be known as Cloud9 G2A, taking on the MSI Team Dragon Knights.
It's a bit of a mouthful, that one.
It is, yeah.
Quite a lot of storylines going along with these two teams, especially, obviously, Cloud9 coming out of a lot of players that have been in the scene for a while, picked up, moved around. We've seen some role swaps, actually, on that team as well, and a lot of players are in positions we might not have expected.
Yeah, Laud and Stixie for the two. Laud moved back to AD carry from mid lane. He played that previously. Stixie moving from AD carry to support. And then, of course, big story with MSI Team Dragon Knights. These guys are looking really, really strong. It's a team made up of Korean players and some Korean-American players, which is really interesting because even the Korean-American players, they do speak Korean. So even though they do have some American players on the team house is located in California, their team chat is in Korean, which is really cool. So that's Seraph, Kez, Narakyle, who's like a Jace main, a Jace streamer. Lewis X GG is the AD carry. He's been on Team Dragon Knights for a while, but he was formerly known as Loyal. He was on the Jin Air Green Wind Falcons. He was a sub for them. And then, of course, running off with Conquan, who's been around the Challenger scene for a while.
Yeah, one of your favorites, actually. We're talking in the pregame. You think he's probably one of the stronger supports in Challenger right now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he does, though. And, you know, in the middle, pick some bans. Rek'Sai banned away. That's kind of a no-brainer here. Makes a lot of sense, although Yusui's Syndra has also been a target in the past. I'm not too surprised to see it, but look at all those flex picks that C9's taken away. Yeah,
it's sort of the meta of flex picks right now. Jace, Kassadin, Azir, Rek'Sai, Lissandra, all champions that can be played in both top lane and mid lane, and all very potent champions. Of course, Jace banned out right away. Narakyle, he was actually a Jace main. He was a streamer came over here to try out for Coast, and it didn't work out for him, and he sort of like dropped everything to come over here to try out for them. And he was sort of stranded in California before he got picked up by MSI TDK. And he's impressed me a lot. We saw them in the qualifiers, the round of 16, and he did some really great work.
He did get Jace once, and yeah, it seems like he's never going to again after that. Yeah. What a monstrous performance. Of course, Gnar is also off the board going in the bans, but immediately Solo King's going to lock in the Jarvan. That could go top, but we've seen it most frequently in the jungle, of course, and I wouldn't be too surprised if Hard does end up taking that.
Yeah, Hard. It's a little bit of an interesting name.
He was a bit different.
He was formerly known as 9JX. There was a lot of mystery surrounding him. He was, before that, known as Family Puss. He played for another challenger team that actually did pretty well. They were barely missed out qualifying for the top 16 teams of the NACS last season. But he's widely regarded as one of the top challenger junglers out there right now.
Yeah, and you know, name changes kind of abound as well as team changes when you're talking about the challenger scene. It's pretty hard to keep track of that stuff. The Rumble locked in right now for Seraph, and of course Thresh being taken as well for Conquan. Pretty strong general picks, doesn't reveal too much strategy. You don't want to give away things very early on. And TDK have shown to be a very, very strategically minded team.
Yeah, and they have a lot of experience under their belt. Kez had a whole season of LCS, just about. Seraph had a whole season of LCS, plus his stint for subbing in OGN. Lewis XGG, he was a sub for an OGN team as well. And then Conquan, he was a part of like a win trading scandal, and he just got unbanned for competitive play. And he's always been up at the top as far as challenger supports go. But he's finally getting his chance to prove himself on what I think is going to be a really strong team moving into the 2015 NACS.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they're definitely using this as more or less a little bit of some testing grounds, making sure they can test those strategies that they do have out. Of course, this is sort of a weird place, as you mentioned, the meta. A lot of flex picks available in this preseason. They were taken off the board, of course, by C9, but there are a lot of pretty strong lock-ins. So it looks like we're going to see that Jarvan in the top lane now, as the Lee Sin is locked in for hard. Corki, and this is another flex pick. We've seen Corki go mid, along with Ezreal. I mean, these Triforce AD carries have been going a lot of different places so far in this season. And we didn't mention this in pregame, but Kalista has been a contested pick for both Laud and Louis GG, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go with it here.
Yeah, a lot of challenger AD carries have been experimenting with Kalista, trying out Kalista in a lot of their rank 5s matches. And she's actually really strong. Her damage potential, especially late game, is really high. It's just she's a little bit tougher to play. You sometimes fall behind in CS because you can't cancel autos. Her mobility is good, but it's hard to use. So different factors like that make her a little bit tough to sort of pick up. But once you get going with her, once you start actually practicing, she's really potent in a lot of team comps. And Azir as well, one of the strengths of being sort of a one-trick pony, so to speak, is that you always draw bans. And if you have a deeper champion pool like Kyle does, if you're drawing bans away, that means a lot of high priority picks are still going to go over to your team. And we saw Jarvan, Lee Sin, Azir all left on the board, which are really high impact picks.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder what they're going to do on the side of C9 G2A. Now, they immediately lock in the Xerath, and that's a bit of an interesting choice, I think. They have some decent poke as well as hard engage between Jarvan, Lee Sin. The Jan is a little bit odd in that situation because it's kind of anti-synergy with that, but it seems like they've sort of decided to make a comp that gives them some options, and, well, let's hope it works out for them in this situation. TDK, you know, they had this very clear strategy in mind. It's a little bit more chase-oriented.
Yeah, and this is they picked up a lot of power picks here, and this is one of the reasons why they went with the Jarvan for top lane, is because Lee Sin and Jarvan were both left open. And if they pick up the Jarvan, it forces the other team into a position where they have to pick up their jungler early when they haven't seen any picks from the enemy team, or just the jungler pick from the enemy team, or they have to give up both picks. And so that's just the nature of flex picks and the strength of flex picks in general early on, is that they open up a lot of opportunities for your team to pick up more high priority stuff later on in the picks and ban.
Yeah, it looks like with that, they've completed the composition they were looking for. The Azir choice, I want to go back to that for Kyle a little bit. He drew the J-Span. That's been kind of the thing that people have been extremely afraid of, but we have seen him adapt at other champions. And at this point, I'm kind of excited to see how TDK does in this opening one. If they make a big statement against this very, very hyped Cloud9 squad, it's going to be, I don't know if I'd call it an upset, but it will be a pretty big deal for game number one, and you never know what that can do to the mentality of a team, especially a newly formed team.
Definitely, and it's Cloud9 they're a little bit of a hype team. There's a couple players on that team that a lot of players have been watching for a very long time, but they're unproven, and they have some players on this team that just haven't really made a splash. And Stixie moving to support, Laud making a move back to AD carry, and of course Solo King, who was previously on Zenith, who had a decent showing in the expansion tournament, but fell out pretty early on. He just hasn't proven himself to be a top-tier LCS caliber player. So they definitely have a lot to prove, but they have a good organization behind them in Cloud9. They have a lot of resources, so we'll have to see if they're going to be able to prove themselves to be a top challenger team.
I want to go ahead and talk about Yusui versus Kyle matchup. I think that's one's going to be pretty interesting just because they're both players that have been really strong for very different reasons. Yusui has been around the challenger scene for a little bit now, and people have kind of called him this wonder kid, and he's done a number of champions extremely well, but especially assassins. This time, he's on the Xerath, so a bit of snipe action he's hoping for here. And he's up against Kyle, who, as you mentioned, you know, was this more single one-trick pony for a while, but also has expanded his champion pool to a level that, you know, we hadn't seen before. And I want to know how this one plays out. This is the great unknown in this match.
Yeah, Yusui, a player with the deepest champion pool that I've ever seen out of a challenger player. He plays just about anything. You look at their ranked 5s history, almost every game he plays something different. And it's not like he just plays assassins or just plays control mages or just plays like AP or AD assassins, I guess. He plays just about anything. Kyle, I think, is one of the players to watch moving forward. He floated in the middle of the pack as well, not even. He tried out for a lot of Korean teams, but there's a lot of great Korean mid laners that just beat him out. And then he came over to the US to try and try out for some teams like Coast, and they didn't want him because he spoke Korean and he just couldn't communicate it enough with the team. Now he's found a home sort of in the middle ground. It's a team that speaks Korean on their team comms, but it's sort of an American team because they have 2 Korean Americans plus Seraph, who's been here for about a year. So I'm really looking to him to make a big splash in ESL Pro Series and then moving forward in the NACS. But this is going to be a big test.
Yeah, definitely a big test for both, of course. And easy starts right there. Lod and Stixie going to go ahead and take the Krugs to start this one off. It's been pretty typical jungle strategy as well. Gromp being taken by Louis GG and Conquan while the junglers are up closer to the top side. This game will begin fairly standard. No tricks either way. Solo King, though, how do you think he fares against Seraph's Rumble?
It's going to be rough. Seraph is, I've watched some of the rank 5 matches, and he seems to be pretty proficient on Rumble, but Rumble in general, I think, it has a couple weaknesses against Jarvan, just because he can really punish Rumble early on. And Jarvan is a champion in a top lane who, if you can get a lead, you can really suffocate your opponent. And Rumble can sometimes, if you can get ahead early, get a lot of damage, force Rumble onto the back foot. You can really get ahead a lot in that lane. And Solo King is a player that really loves the 1v1 matchup. He's susceptible to gank sometimes from overextension, but he lives for split pushing and he lives for 1v1 action. So he's definitely a strong laner.
Yeah, Seraph, that was the big thing with him on CLG, was always being shut down because the enemy team would, relentlessly camp him or roam to mid. But that was on CLG. That was a team that didn't prioritize the top lane really at all. And it's yet to be seen what TDK does in this situation. Clearly, Seraph, one of the, I wouldn't say most talented members. These are all very talented players, but he's definitely a star with a lot of experience.
I think MSI TDK also fits his playstyle a bit more. In CLG, he came into an already existing team with already existing team infrastructure and team strategies, whereas for Team Dragon Knights, he was one of the first players to join when they redid their roster. And so his playstyle, he can afford to be a little more aggressive. The team isn't really, is allowing him to sort of be more of himself instead of having to fit the role that the team needs him to. And I think that makes him overall a stronger player. And from what I've seen, he's impressed me a lot more in the past couple weeks playing on TDK than he did in almost his entirety on CLG.
He's definitely playing with a lot more confidence this time. That start kind of indicates what he's going for here as he goes for the Amp Tome and Cloth to start that one off. So he's about even trading with Solo King right now. Solo King, of course, he also thrives on the 1v1. I mean, that's his name. That's not just his name, though. It's kind of a way of life with him. He loves to just relentlessly beat down the enemy team and just the enemy top laner whenever he can. This bot lane, I'm kind of surprised how quiet it is, though. We haven't seen as much competitive Kalista, but as you mentioned, Louis GG is one of the proponents of that. And, once he hits 6, that's kind of where things start to change, but it's a little bit different with the Thresh, because, if you throw a Thresh at an enemy team, it's not quite as scary as, say, like a Braum or a Leona.
It still can be scary just because the CC becomes easier to land. You throw a Thresh in the enemy team, he traps you in the box. It can be a little tough, but that lane is actually really tough to deal with, the Kalista Thresh lane. Just because Kalista can put out so much damage if she gets a couple auto attacks on you and then is able to proc the rend.
It's also a very safe lane. The Sentinel makes it incredibly cost-effective.
Oh yeah, but
you don't have to ward quite as much.
At the same time, you get gold for the Sentinel. So
it's true.
But you can send out those little ghosties, and if those things last, I love those things. They provide you with some great vision. They make it so you can stay in lane a little bit longer, but especially if you can lock down a target with Thresh, Kalista can put out so much damage. She can sometimes be a little easier to gank because sometimes, especially early on with not much attack speed, her mobility is a little bit harder to utilize. She's can be a really potent threat in the lane. Now the big, of course, we talked about the mid lane matchup here. Both these guys are mid laners that I'm looking forward to watching in this tournament and playing two sort of similar champions. They're both long range, very control oriented mages that are really strong in the late game. I've seen Kyle on Azir just do ridiculous things in the later stage of the game on Azir. But it's all about getting there, because you can punish Azir early on, because sometimes his damage can be a little bit lacking.
Now here, Hard's going to have to try to bail away, but Kez is chasing him down. Burns his flash, actually, and goes over to the Krugs, just not giving up that first blood easy, but now down in the bot lane. Lod's pretty low. The heal is out. Exhaust is on him, though. This could be it. And Louis GG very close. Gets picked up by Conquan, and now Stixie's caught as Kez comes around for a consolation prize, but he won't secure it.
Yeah, that just shows you just how much damage Kalista can put out. You saw like 4 auto attacks and then the rend. It did like 4 bars of Lod's health, and I don't think you really expected it. And that's a lot of summoners blown as well. That's 3 summoners only for 2, so Louis and Conquan hold on to both their flashes, and they're able to get a little bit of a lead in that lane. Even the CS, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there as well, so maybe Lod, not much experience playing against Kalista, but it seemed like they took a little bit of a bad engagement there.
Yeah, now this is a very bold call, bringing 4 members to take this Dragon 7-10. There's really no answer, though, because, well, jungler's back. They're able to take this really good timing play now by Team Dragon Knights, and they do secure the first Dragon at 7 minutes in.
And that's a big deal. With the new Dragon giving that stat buff, it's actually worth more gold. It's more gold efficient than the old Dragon was. You got global gold, and it's also an investment because it scales as the game goes on. So picking up an early Dragon at this point can really allow you to start snowballing lanes and look for TDK to do that. And it just seems like Cloud9 are just sitting back on their heels right now. The Jarvan pick up top, it doesn't seem to be doing what it should be. I mean, Jarvan's great in the late game, especially in combination with Xerath, because you can hold targets in for a lot of that damage.
It is a little bit weird, and you know, you mentioned the mid lane's kind of a control mage matchup. It seems like the entirety of this laning phase has been very control-oriented for both the teams, and they just don't really want to go all in on each other. There are a lot of key power spikes to note here, though. The mid power spike for C9 G2A is very, very strong, and it seems like their strategy right now is to kind of hold out and test the waters of the opponent until you're confident to do that. But they're already down a Dragon, and you know, giving up first blood isn't as big of a deal, but they're not exactly winning any laning phases here. They're just kind of trading even at best.
And the thing is, their team comp seems a little bit odd. They do some things well, but they don't do anything great, it seems. They have a decent siege, but at the same time, their engage relies on a very all-in type style with Jarvan and Lee Sin, so they don't really have the tools to pick. And aside from Xerath, their siege isn't great. I mean, they have good anti-siege because of wave clear, but it seems like they picked strong lanes and just strong overall picks to try and maybe overwhelm TDK. The TDK just picked decent lanes in response, and they're just doing a better job right now in the lane to keep themselves ahead.
Well, and some of that's definitely the more pro-level experience. You mentioned members of Team Dragon Knights have played LCS, have subbed in OGN. A couple of them have anyways, and whoop, Sentinel. Doesn't see anything.
Creature control happened. All right. Well, yeah, it's starting to slow down a little bit here, and I think that's sort of the style that TDK likes to play. Kez is a very control-heavy jungler. A lot of the times, you can see his leads right there. He rushes Sightstone before he even gets the enchantment upgrade for his jungle item.
Or his boots.
Or his boots. A lot of the time, he just goes straight Sightstone, and he focuses so much on vision control for his team that a lot of the times his ganks aren't that potent, but he makes his lane safe. And if they can make early moves like they did just now earlier, where they had a good roam into the jungle, they shut down hard, and they got a good engagement down the bottom lane to pick up a kill plus a dragon, they can just sit back and be okay with taking the slow route in this match.
The positioning in particular has been really, really good for Team Dragon Knights. They're just not giving any openings. You saw they didn't even see Hard coming through lane, but they had a good game sense about when Lee Sin might be ganking that bottom side, and they just immediately backed off. They gave up maybe 2 CS differential, and then got right back into it the moment he left, like just without missing a beat.
So I wonder where the next move is going to come from here. You can see vision is pretty evenly controlled over that river area. It seems like C9 has more of defensive wards, whereas TDK is looking to push a little bit more forward, especially around that river area. Kez is very mid lane focused right now, making sure he sets up vision to keep Kyle safe, because getting him to late game with a decent amount of farm pretty safely is going to be a key for them to win. It's because of how much damage Azir can put out late game. It's sneaky damage too. you don't really realize that he's killing you until you're dead.
Yeah, it's very deceptive, and that's the thing with damage over time. It just doesn't look like it's quite so bad. Ooh, Louis GG, though. Careful, careful. He's going to have a Lantern on, and now he's trying to kite back Flash and heal burned to get away, but he still goes down, and it's Stixie who sticks him with the Ignite.
That was such an underwhelming kill, and that's one of the downfalls of Kalista. If she finds herself out of position, it's really tough for her to get away, especially earlier on when she doesn't have much attack speed. Her kiting is just pretty poor. And that's bad right there because they used both summoners and only trading an Ignite in return from the side of C9. So that's just a little bit of oversight, I guess, there from the damage potential of LOD right now. But just a bit of a mistake.
Yeah, it's the caster curse, man. We were just singing the praises of the positioning of Louis GG and Conquan, and then that happens. He doesn't actually even take the Lantern back. He just kind of kited his way backwards and thought he could escape from that situation. He doesn't really lose them too much, but the gold lead that they had built up has started to close just a little bit. And now, look, here we go, up on the top. Kez, Kina, here we go, jump in to the Solo King's cage, but Hard has traded it out, actually burning his Flash to get away, realizing there was way too much damage for him to deal with. And he'll be getting out of town. No kills there.
Yeah, so a couple summoners blown, though, and that's actually a pretty big deal, because one, it'll force Solo King to lose some farm up in the top lane and fall a little bit behind, or to use his teleport to get back up to lane, and with Dragon up in 40 seconds, he can't really afford to do that. So this is going to give Seraph some breathing room, some time to get his footing in that lane, which it seems like he's been just sort of playing very passively, trying to get the farm, just farm up, and this is a big deal.
Oh, whoa! That was aggressive. Louis GG nearly goes down again, but he this time is able to escape. No Ignite available. Dragon is live in 20 seconds, and that's key because Louis GG has to back off now, but they're not going to go for it.
One thing about Kalista is she's very reliant on support. She can't really hold her own in like a 2v1 situation. I guess her passive and her Oathsworn is a big indicating factor of that, but she needs to be able to have peel. She needs to have something to set her up. And you can see Conquan throwing back the Lantern as a juke to try and push these guys off the turret to maybe save it.
They're not gonna bite on that one yet.
It's a good idea,
but they weren't fooled.
Well, they realized that whoever came out from that bush, they probably could have taken on anyway, so they weren't scared. Not scared.
E2A is, oh, no Sentinel Scouts.
Goodbye, Ghosty.
Yeah, now Dragon up. Kez and Kyle are gonna move and start this one right here. They have the Scuttle Crab Shrine, so they'll be going for that one. A lot of damage output from this Azir, too, and that's the thing. He just starts ramping up so well. Kez, even without too many damaging items, just his upgraded jungle item is able to do it quite a lot out. Ooh! Rocket nearly steals, but nope, smited down in time. Kez has the timing on it, and they do secure a second Dragon now.
And this is the benefit of having that jungler that really focuses on vision control. Even though they fell behind a little bit in that bot lane, they lost the turret just because they had that crab control over the mid side river and bottom side river and vision control around the mid lane. They were just able to pick up that dragon just because of their control over the map, which is pretty impressive. And you could tell Kez just doesn't go to lanes that often. He goes to lanes for like counter ganks, or if he's in the area, he tries to find himself in like the right place at the right time. But other than that, he farms up, he makes sure he focuses on vision control. That's how he played on Complexity. That's how he played on Cloud9 Tempest, if you want to go even further back to that. And that's exactly how he's playing on TDK.
Yeah, although he is going a little bit more damage heavy. You mentioned he goes for the early Sightstone, but look at that. Upgrades to the Fiendish Codex. That's the Magus enchant incoming. And we have seen AP Elise before, but some people prefer the Juggernaut. I think it's been more trending towards the damage, but considering that this is a very bold move too, confidence.
If you take a look at the match history, I think it's like 50-50 whether or not they go for it. And just having the option of being able to do that, still being just as successful. I think if your team needs a little bit more tankiness, if you're falling behind, sometimes Juggernaut could be a little bit of a better choice. But I think they lack the damage in the mid game right now. Azir needs a little bit of time to ramp up. Grumble outside of his ultimate needs a little bit of time to ramp up his damage. So maybe he just wants a little bit of extra damage early on, because they definitely have a mid-game focus team.
Here we go. Equalizer thrown down. They're able to get out of there, but oh, there's the throw. Conquan getting kicked away, denied by Hard, but the tower is on. They find Yusui. They're going to jump on him, and he just evaporates. Teleport now coming in, and I don't know if Solo King can really do much about this. Azir turret's up, and everybody from TDK is looking very hot right now.
Yeah, their initiation can come so quickly. and just so explosively. You saw that Kalista just threw Conquan into the fray, and you got a flay off, you got a couple hooks, got some summoners out, and that can be scary. And then, of course, the equalizer as well. I really like this team comp because they have a lot of potential to siege with Azir, with Elise, with Kalista. 4 ranged champions, well, sort of, with Azir, is really strong siege potential. And since they're very mid-game focused, at least with their initiation, with the equalizer, and with being able to just toss Thresh into the fray, is pretty good. And they're capitalizing on some of Cloud9 team comp weaknesses. Yeah,
now Cloud9, though, does have a small timing window that they tried to take advantage of by pushing the tower and have to back away from that one now as TDK was coming to the rescue. Slight gold lead still in the favor of C9, but that looks like it's about to change. Seraph is pushing up solo in the top, and he really doesn't have too much contest. Yusui does come in now, and that's, you know, we saw how fragile he really was when he gets caught out, and this is just the downfall of a Xerath choice in this situation. There's so much chase, so much catch that Dragon Knights, when they get a hold of you, they can just blow you up before you can do anything.
Yeah, I'm really impressed so far with the Dragon Knights map control. And I said it before with Kez, but it's a team effort right now. And they're going to go for this top lane. They could be in trouble.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and try to grab Yusui as well. He's focused on, stunned up. Seraph kicked away into the cage, but here's Solo King causing havoc in the middle. Conquan, though, defending everything. Stixie has now joined the crew. It just became a 4v4. And Kyle and Lauder wondering, where did everybody go? Whoa, can he get the snipe? Yes! Luigi G taken down by Yusui, and Seraph is as well. Hard actually picks this one up. Conquan's in trouble too. The follow-up, the chase was really good there from Cloud9. G2A, they picked themselves up 3 for free.
Yeah, that was a rough initiation there by TDK. Outside of having a good initiation and great follow-up on that initiation, I said it, their damage is a little weak right now. It takes a long time for Kalista to ramp up her damage. It takes a while for Azir as well to ramp up his damage. So unless they get a good equalizer and can lock down single targets early on, they're not gonna have that consistent throughput of damage to be able to come out on top of these fights. And you can tell just there, Laud had a lot more consistent damage in the fight. Yusui as well from long range, and they could just chase down targets and pick them off one by one.
Yeah, it was a really strange time to double down like that. When they push the tower already, then they go forward immediately. Conquan just tries to make the play, and they almost got Yusui, but there was just far too much backup there, and this is Cloud9 answering back, realizing that TDK will go for the aggressive play most of the time.
Aggressive plays around objectives, it seems to be their MO here. And it worked out for them for the early part of the game, and I think they just got a little bit ahead of themselves there. I think they got a little bit overconfident, because the last couple engages that they had went so well. But now they're starting to fall behind.
Just a little bit now, yep. Down in the gold game, they still have 2 dragons to nil. Cloud9 needs to answer this one back if they want to scale a little bit better into the later game. They need that 8% bonus to be able to fight a little bit more effectively. Not to mention, Laud is on a champion that makes use of both the AD and AP.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Corki was so popular, especially with new changes.
Oh, Yusui! Oh, I don't think he's going to live through this one. Kyle is going to poke him down. And a soldier coming out to the defense to make sure there's no follow-up. That's a terrible timing. 20 seconds until Dragon comes back on up. TDK looking to take their 3rd.
Yeah, that's a rare positioning error by Yusui there. And you said it, being caught out at the wrong time with Dragon spawning. They really needed to pick up that first Dragon because they have a little bit of gold lead, but the stats from the Dragon buff right now are making up that gold lead for TDK, and maybe even then some. So you really have to factor that into like your engagement choices. I know the players can't see the gold total in the game, but they can get a feel. Oh, we have more turrets. Oh, we have more kills. We're probably ahead in items, but you have to factor in that Dragon when you're going for these engagements.
Oh, another hook.
Take it.
Yeah. They learned their lesson the last time, but yeah. Another nice Dragon picked up by TDK. Good timing. You mentioned it before. They're aggressive around these objectives. They make sure they get something for their fights, whether they win it or not. And they may be down in towers, but they're definitely up in Dragons, and they're still looking very much in this. And, 3 Dragons to 0. When you start getting into that territory, it's a little bit dangerous for the other team.
Especially for a team that ramps up as well as they do. Getting it out of the way early, like getting those Dragons out of the way early, is a pretty big deal because they've taken the last 2 Dragons almost immediately after spawn, and they took the first one so early that they have 3 already by 20 minutes. So that could mean if they win a fight, they could very well go for a Fort Dragon and then a Baron. And Fort Dragon buff plus a Baron buff makes it so easy for you to push, especially with the decent siege comp that they have going for them. Of course, it's going to be tough for them to go against the Xerath with a lot of wave clear, and Corki with a lot of wave clear, but there's a lot of potential. Xerath is...
Yep, he realizes he's got a limited time on the Rift. Does throw down the Equalizer, but can't do much against both Yusui and Solo King. And then Laud, meanwhile, takes down Louis GG down on the bot. I'd like to actually see how that one happened, but looks like he just might have been in a bad position.
Yeah, it's possible. And that's the weakness of Kalista. I keep saying it is, if you get caught out of position, especially against a Corki, Corki has a lot more upfront damage than you do. Corki has more gold in this game right now with 50 CS up. Laud is right now. The big power spike with Trinity Force, Sork Boots, and a BF Sword just to top it all off, going towards that Bloodthirster, it seems like. Laud's starting to get really big really quickly, and that could snowball out of control if they don't keep it in check. TDK is doing a great job of trying to hold control of the map and a great job on Dragons, but these fights could start going poorly for them very quickly.
Yeah, I think they really have to stop leaving Louis GG alone. It's not just not particularly good for Kalista, but because of that extension error, it's costing them a lot of map positioning right now, and you can see sort of moving around in the jungle, seeing if they can get some pickoffs, looking to potentially start up. It's a little bit early for a Baron dance, but they want to be able to take that option if they have it. Solo King eats a hook from Conquan, but does back away now. You can just see how scared TDK actually is of this right now. They're trying to farm jungle camps by just pulling them into the brush.
Well, I said it before, they don't have a very good like counter-engage type comp. It's okay for like picking off single targets with like an Elise Cocoon or a Thresh Hook, but unless they're starting a fight on their terms, I just don't think they're going to come out on top here. It seems like these picks are just really, really strong overall. For C9, I said earlier they might not make sense as a whole, but they definitely are playing it as effectively as they can right now. And if they can get a good engagement, the fight's almost definitely going to go in their favor right now.
Just testing the waters.
Oh, poor little raptor.
Yep.
Doesn't even look like a raptor, but they're called raptors. Are they called raptors? Yeah, they're called raptors.
Defenses are always down on the Rift.
You look shaky on that one, but... I see.
Just waiting for the right time to throw in the reference.
Okay, that wasn't a confused face. That was a I'm trying to find a joke for this exact scenario face.
It's exactly what happened.
Okay.
TDK here, they seem to be a little bit lost. They play very well ahead. They've gotten ahead in the games we've seen from them so far in this roster. But this is their toughest opponent yet. C9G2A, a lot of players, you know, we were wondering about the synergy, we were wondering about how well they might play together, but they definitely have the individual pedigree across the board, even if they're not in roles that we've seen them in for a while or before. And in this situation, it seems really strange. TDK's holding out for a later game when they're going to spike appropriately, but right now it's a really weird place for them, and they're not really sure what to do.
Not a lot of new champions in their roster. Kalista and Azir. So it's hard for teams to sort of gauge their power as the game goes on, unless they have a lot of experience with that champion, but they're not open enough and they haven't been out long enough to really experiment with it. So I'm not surprised that they're...
Kez going up for the repel, but he does have a flash to get himself further out of danger. A lot of lantern clicks this game. Conquan is a sad Thresh.
he's throwing out a bone and nobody's...
I hate that when I throw a lantern. And my AD just walks right by it.
Here, buddy, click this lantern. Trying to save your buddies and they just die anyway. It's sad when they like walk past it and still end up dying anyway.
Hey, they call that autopathic.
They do. Some people do.
Some people do. Laud is actually hitting a really monstrous point right here. He's getting pretty close to, well, you know, actually, I think he might go...
It's either
Trinity Force next. Yeah, he could build the Bloodthirster and then the Last Whisper, but like at this point, you're ahead enough to where it's probably fine. Oh, he is caught though. There we go. They're gonna try and chase this fight. Conquan gonna actually put his box down. They're gonna try to find Solo King. They get the hook, and again Conquan manages to make it, and here he comes in, but he might have gone too far forward. Solo King is gonna take him down, and another bad timing around the Dragon Pit. It's not the worst thing in the world. The 4v5 is still winnable for TDK, but they're not going to attempt this one. It looks like we might see C9's first dragon.
It's possible. They're a little bit low on resources. Mana is low on Laud, and health is low on Hard, but it looks like they're just going to push for this turret. They find a little bit of a lack of positioning here from TDK, so they go ahead and make the most efficient use of this time with Conquan down and get 2 objectives out of it, probably.
Yeah, but now they have to fight over this dragon. Kez is still here. It's going to be a minute before Conquan can really get to this. I think it's going to be given up. They're not going to attempt the steal. Just try to push some people back on it, but now they might have to take a fight. Here we go. Nice stun up from the Xerath, but he's all isolated. Yusui, I don't know if he's going to live through this one. Nope, burns his flash, and Louis GG says, no, you don't.
Yeah, great pick up there, but
Stixie also was happening up river.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay,
they did pay for it. They did pay for that dragon, but they really needed the 8%. I mean, that's big right now. Denying the 4th buff as well is really important.
Denying the 4th buff and picking up a buff for yourself. The whole game they've been playing with a little bit of a lead, but they've been not as far ahead as they would think, just because of the gold efficiency of picking up that first dragon. Now they even it up with that. That first buff is ever so important, and it scales as well with the 6% AD and AP. So they're going to be coming out even further ahead. And it looks like Laud actually decides to go for the Infinity Edge as second instead of that Bloodthirster.
Yeah, going back to that fight, it was really strange that Yusui went bottom and the rest of his team tried to go up top. Do you think they just broke down communication there and they messed up, or was it more of a somebody's probably going to die, let's sack?
This is a very, very new team with a very new lineup. These guys haven't played together for a lot long. I'm sure it was just a communication error. It takes a long time to be able to be in sync, and muscle memory can play a big part in like which way you go after a dragon. That if you don't explicitly say, hey, we're just going to go upriver here, then someone's bound to get caught out.
Solo King is not afraid to just throw a Cataclysm down for any reason whatsoever. No. That guy is so bloodthirsty. Although it seems like he's refined his game a little bit since when he was on Zenith Esports. He used to be a little bit more mindless. I'm going to go top, split push, and just knock heads in. And now he's kind of like roaming with the team. He's yes, he's thrown down his ults, but he's got a low enough cooldown on it to where it's probably okay. He's definitely kind of leveled up here.
When I first started watching him, he was reckless. And he just would go in for 1v1 situations and try and gain advantages for himself and his team without much mindfulness as far as map awareness went. And it worked out for them sometimes, because sometimes he would draw attention up to the top lane and his team would be able to take objective elsewhere on the map. And it kept his team in games that they would have not have been in otherwise. But I think you're right. Overall, he's definitely solidified some of the areas of his play where he was a bit shaky.
Speaking of shaky plays here, Cloud9 just not sure if they wanted to try and take the tower fight. Would have been a little bit risky, just considering they didn't know where Kez was. He happened to be just hanging just under the tower area, but here we go. Seraph is going to be splitting down in the bottom side, so that one tower up top remains. 3-5 is that tower score. The gold's pretty even here, but TDK, remember, still has that 2 dragon buff advantage, and that more or less evens this out. Probably gives them a little bit of an edge here, I'd say.
It does. They're able to move across the map quicker, which at this point in the game is a big deal. First tier turrets are gone. Map control means a whole heck of a lot right now. Just because one player caught out, death timers are long enough to where the other team can capitalize on it and get vision control themselves or get an objective themselves. And so it's a pretty big deal to be able to rotato across the map quicker than not. So I wouldn't say they have an advantage just because they're a little bit down in gold. Their team fight is still a little bit weaker, I'd say. Kalista and Azir are still trying to ramp up. They haven't had a good engagement since that one that they had in mid lane 10 minutes ago, which they didn't even get much off of it. So still a lot of work to do. Uphill.
Yeah. And the game has settled a little bit too, because both teams are kind of leery of taking a fight in this unknown waters. And I think, you know, it affects Cloud9 as much as it affects TDK, not knowing necessarily as much the Azir and Kalista where they were going to ramp up. I mean, there's definitely like an agreed upon place where that is really starting to be strong, but the finer tuning of it, that's still kind of yet to be decided. Now, Solo King is caught here, but he's very tanky. He should be able to get out with the Flag and Dragon. Yeah, he does. So no really big worries there, but Cloud9 seems very, very leery of taking a fight even though it's only a minute and a half before the next dragon, they're not going to try to push any towers here. Oh, they're going to take a kick, though. There we go. Seraph was caught out of position. He takes Azani's Hourglass as his team gets to his rescue. They don't quite have the damage to pick him off, but Solo King wants to take it. Can they get the snipe off? Not quite. Solo King going low, shut down by Seraph. He goes down to follow as well, though, and the top laners trade. Conquan gets picked off. Lod just going absolutely crazy in the back. Yusui going to get himself a big kill on Louis GG. There we go. Lod's finally blown up. It's a 2v2. Only remaining, they find Kyle, but they don't want to follow it up. Yusui, excuse me, still hanging around. Full health nearly, and Cloud9 wins that fight by the skin of their teeth.
But it's starting to get closer for TDK. A poor engagement. It was sort of a panic equalizer by Seraph, so it wasn't the best. It sort of split the team fight, which did as much as he could in that situation, but not ideal. And they still managed to almost trade evenly. So you can tell Kyle just on the back line, far away, sitting safely, doing so much damage that, again, like we said earlier, sort of just sneaks up on you. You're like, what is even damaging me? And then you realize, oh, it's Azir. By the time that happens, you're already dead. And I think that's exactly what happened to Lod in that situation. But definitely a better team fight than I would have expected for TDK.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and they're more drawn out, chaotic kind of fights of opportunity rather than these meditated. Oh, we're gonna go, meet them head on and wipe them out, and try to flank them, put them in a bad position, whatever. It just seems to be very haphazard the way they're executing it. And in those sustained fights, when you just sit there and you have several spell rotations before you get to a point where you take anyone out, that's where Janna is fantastic. That's where Xerath is fantastic. That's where Jarvan is fantastic. Those all work really, really well in these situations. So Cloud9's really playing to the strengths of their composition as far as fights go. But now they're going to have to fight over this dragon. They pulled it as far as it will outside the pit. But here we go. TDK is going to try to take the offensive here. It's going to reset. Scuttle Crab control is in Cloud9's favor, however, and Dragon's reproc. Stixie's going to try to keep this one active, and this is a very touchy Dragon Dance. We'll see who is going to take home the prize.
Yeah, I always like to say that the team that is closer to mid lane. Uh-oh, here we go.
Taken by Cloud9. Here we go. The fight is on. Solo King gonna get his Cataclysm onto Kyle, trying to lock him up. Conquan in the back. Kick away is Seraph, but Lod is gonna get the kill. Good Monsoon by Stixie just for a second. Gets his Frost Queen's claim proc on Seraph, and they're going to just bail out of this one. Everyone at Cloud9 is low, but Lod isolated from the pack. He's got nowhere to go. He does have quite a lot of damage, but it looks like it's only a matter of time. Seraph baits it out with the Zanyas, and they take a 2-for-1, but the Dragon does go C9's way.
Yeah, so not the worst thing in the world for TDK. They lose the Dragon, but are one kill up in that situation. And again, I said it earlier, these team fights are going to start to go better and better for TDK. The more on top of the initiation they can be, the better the fight's going to go for them. And they're starting to out damaging those two carries from C9. Yusui is having a lot of trouble putting out a consistent amount of damage like Azir's doing. And as that damage over time just ramps up, he's going to do a lot more, and he's a little bit safer because his CC is on a little bit of a lower cooldown. He's got a lot more chaos going on in the fight than C9 does have for their team.
And he's got Azania's too. That's something that Yusui hasn't picked up.
Azania's Hourglass. Both of these solo laners have Azania's Hourglass for TDK, and you can tell that really puts a wrench in C9's fight.
Absolutely. Not only that, Louis GG has started to hit a huge stride. You saw how fast he was chunking that tower after the fight. That's all they need is a small opening, and you can just start shredding down objectives. So 4 to 5 is now the tower line. C9 hasn't grabbed really much of any non-dragon objectives in a while now. They're starting to look at the Baron area. They have Rift Scuttler control, but they are still very cautious of taking this fight. I feel like they've missed a window of opportunity here. The gold lead doesn't really mean much of anything when it's only 2,000. It's 35 minutes in. TDK has started to hit a pretty solid ramping with a lot of their players, and they're feeling confident in this one. Cloud9's a little unsure. Oh, there we go. Nice Baron proc. A little extra damage onto Stixie.
Yeah, this match is just straight up dead even, I'd say. C9 has a 1-turret lead, and that's pretty much only where the gold lead is coming from. But TDK is still dragging up, even after those 2 dragons in a row taken by Cloud9 G2A. So it's pretty even. You can tell the fights are going back and forth, starting to go a little bit more in TDK's favor.
Ah, there's the Hurricane.
Yeah, there's the Hurricane completed. I think it's just, I don't necessarily know if that's an ideal choice, but it seems to be like a good 3rd or 4th item for Kalista. She scales so well with attack speed, because not only does it give her more damage, but it also increases her mobility and improves her mobility, which makes her better at chasing, also makes her better at escaping, and so I really like that item. It can be a little bit inconsistent with this team fight damage, but Kalista, you sort of have to be in range like that, and also for rend procs as well.
I was gonna say
It's basically like an expunge, sort of, because you're.
It gives you even more dodge.
It's like the ghetto expunge.
I think a sponge is the ghetto expunge.
Okay, yeah. So,
but that's
it's the sophisticated expunge.
That's the one it is. But it's very subtle. You mentioned damage over time is a deceptive thing, and at this point, Louis GG is doing so much damage to everything. You saw how fast he was able to clear waves with that. Well, in the fights, as long as they stay alive and he kites backwards, they're able to really trade quite effectively. And you notice he hasn't died so much in these fights that they've actually been winning, like, even if it's been by like one champion, right? He's been staying alive in the back and not even needing to use his ultimate, his Fate's Call, to really do a whole lot of anything. Just sustain damage. That's really all they need him for at this point. The same is true of Kyle, and as long as they're able to protect both those carries, TDK is continuing to do pretty solid in these fights. And Seraph is the one getting the focus. I mean, they just want to jump on him. Of course, he has been out of position a few times.
Yeah, and in a couple of the fights, Louis GG has actually used his oath or his Fate's Call to actually pull Conquan out of fights. He's like, okay, buddy, you're getting a little too far out of there. Let me reel you back in real quick.
It's when the AD carry starts supporting the support.
Exactly. I like that sort of interaction between. I think AD carries should have more abilities where they synergize more with their support like that. Maybe we'll start seeing some like identical twins get onto LCS teams because they always have that
inherent synergy.
Yeah. I always had like dreams of Maple Street and the Odd One switching to support and joining Team 8. They becoming the best team in the world.
There's still time, the dream.
And then they go onto the world stage and like they slow motion high five. Like not even like a video of it, but just like the world actually slows down for
I'm just gonna have like this really slow image of those brothers just high-fiving like all day in my head now. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful.
I got your back. Well, this game's starting to slow down a bit.
It's just a little, you think? Yeah, Cloud9 does not want to take a fight here. They are extremely afraid of missing a window where they'll be able to flank TDK. And this is a team that, you know, they've made isolated positional errors, but they don't seem to when they're together.
If this game goes very, very late, it's hard to tell who's going to come out on top, but I think it's going to be TDK. Lee Sin doesn't scale as well until later game. Elise can still put out a little bit more damage while having a little bit more reliable of CC. But it's hard to tell. I think Azir super late game is a little bit better than Xerath in like teamfight situations, maybe not Siege situations. Kalista super late game, I think has a little bit of an edge over Corki, at least in team fights. Maybe not in like a 1v1 duel type scenario with the other AD carry. With a lot of attack speed though, you can actually kite pretty well as Kalista. For shorter range AD carries like Corki,
this is the difference. Backwards. This is the difference between these teams. Cloud9 had a chance to push up and gain Dragon, control the area. Oh, the steal! Never mind what I was about to say because Hard just made the play. 3 Dragons to 3 now. How about that?
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so that's actually a really big deal because that 4th Dragon buff is pretty big. The stats itself aren't that great, but getting closer to that 5th one, which doubles all your bonuses that you got from the previous Dragons, is even better than I think the 4th buff itself. And evening it up at 3 when you have a little bit of a gold lead right now is really great. It's not a good sign that you had to resort to a steal to pick up that Dragon, but at the same time, it's better than nothing.
They managed to pull it off, though, and you know that's the thing. Keep your eyes on the prize here, and you know you want to make sure you can deny that. You mentioned the 5th one, the 4th one is what's coming up next for both these teams now, and it seems like this game is destined to go a little bit longer, just because we're at 40 minutes and it's been an impasse. We haven't really seen real team fights, and they haven't been planned out. So it's a very, very passive play style that they're both exhibiting here, and I can't help but think it's going to end in some sort of explosive Baron throw. Speaking of.
There hasn't been
Not to be prophetic.
There hasn't been a single ace in this game.
No,
so
there
far.
hasn't. Now, so this Baron's spotted, by the way. TDK, they're going to be able to get in here and stop this if they want to. And C9, again, they're so skittish of taking an engagement when in a 5v5 situation that they don't want to do this. And you know, this is the first game. We have a long series ahead of us, it would appear. And you know, You want to make sure you get at least into that quarterfinal position. You double your prize money. That's a very big deal. It's also the bragging rights to say that this is the first big tournament that Cloud9's new challenger team has been a part of, and this is TDK's new roster as well. And it's kind of testing the waters here, but it seems like they're afraid. Both of them are afraid to take so much that of a risk.
Yeah, this is a good preview for what we're going to see in the Challenger Series coming up throughout today. The ladder lock is on Monday for these guys.
And, you know, they're the top 16 teams that aren't already qualified LCS or whatever on that ladder are going to be making it through. And, you know, TDK, C9, G2A should be among them. They definitely got the chops.
But what it seems like both these teams have some work to do to be able to get up to the level where they could qualify for the LCS. A lot of the challenger teams, I'd say probably every single one has had roster swaps or lineup changes or players that dropped out or joined other teams. So pretty much everybody's playing with a new roster. And since the holidays were recently, some players had to take a break. And over the past week, teams have been spamming the rank 5s ladder, trying to solidify their roster, trying to make sure that they're in a position where they're going to guarantee qualify. Oh!
Yep, that's Kez getting pulled out there. But that, hey, thanks. We started the Baron for us here, and now TDK rushing to try and defend against this one. Here we go. Solo King jumping in Cataclysm. It's going to be Louis GG just cutting away from this one. But Conquan taking all the damage, pulls in Lot. Oh, that burst from Azir. Exhaust is down. Kina, that's Sarah picking up a kill. Once again, onto Lot, and now Cloud9 is scattering to get out of this one. Baron is accidentally procced by the Runehands Hurricane, but TDK is still looking for a position to take more kills.
And that was with basically being a man down because they went into that 4v5. Now, there was some Baron damage taken from C9, but it wasn't that much. You can see the power of Kalista in a late game stage right here.
And Azir.
And Azir, because Louis GG just had no fear going into that fight because he knows that he can kite really well. Look at that mobility.
Yeah, Stixie it might have just enough with the Howling Gale. Here we go. Yep. Hard's going to have to spend his Dragon's Rage kick just to move them out of the way. And, you know, this is C9. G2A all game, they've been extremely defensive now that their, you know, supposed power spike has kind of run out here. The Baron's going to be started again by TDK. They have no fear in this particular situation, but Kyle's got to be careful. He was taken extremely low. The Xerath just poking him out. Yusui, 4 seconds still on Lod. Yusui's just trying to make the play here, but the Baron is going to go down. That will be the first one, and Kez smites it away.
Really fantastic pickup by TDK. And right now, the strength of their late game team comp is starting to show through a little bit more with Kyle and Louis GG just forcing them off. I mean, he's got Banshee's Veil, so he's tanky enough. He's got a ridiculous amount of lifesteal, which scales with the Hurricane. The damage on hit from Blade the Rune King scales with the Hurricane. Ren scales with the Hurricane. So this is just a really fantastic and creative build here, and it's really working out for him. He's putting out so much damage in these team fights while also being really hard to pin down is the big thing here. And Kyle as well. Azir can be hard to pin down as well, especially when you get late game. He's got a lot of cooldown reduction with the Morellos and of course that Nashor's too.
He's still sitting on the Singer. He's been sitting on that for a long time. I think that might be his last item that he goes up to. Yeah, I mean, we're approaching fairly close to full build for the solo laners, and that tower, look at how much damage that Kalista's able to put out. Just incredible attack speed. They're roaming as 5. They've got the Baron buff on. They have Sentinel. They have wards. It's just complete vision control here wherever they go, and they kind of like just pack this mobile unit full of vision everywhere they move it around the map.
The one good thing for C9 in this situation, though, is they have the wave clear. With Corki and Xerath, they have decent ability to just sort of stop a siege. But with Baron, it makes it so hard. It's pretty much on Yusui to kill that super ranged siege minion, because nobody else is going to be able to get there to take that down. And with a pretty decent siege composition coming out from TDK with Azir and with Kalista here, they're in a pretty good spot. This should be the 4th dragon taken by them.
Gonna pull it all the way out the pit. Ooh, that damage is just so very real. Can they get the snipe off? Ooh. Nope, doesn't look like it. Kez is able to get the smite down. They take their 4th dragon. It was pretty close. Timing is pretty solid on a lot of skill shots, but it's so hard to steal versus a jungler with a really good smite timing.
Definitely, definitely. Kaz been a little bit inconsistent this game, but generally in the past he's been pretty reliable with his smites, going back to Cloud9 Tempest and more recently Complexity.
Just look at Louis go. Makes very short work of everything in front of him.
Yeah. Still not as fun to watch as an Aurelia CSing under a turret. It's a sight to behold.
Constant blade surges.
Constant blade surges over and over again.
But that Hurricane seems to be doing a lot better than we might have expected it to. I have seen that built on a number of Callistas. Obviously, there haven't been as many competitive ones, and you know, it's kind of jury's still a little bit out, especially considering how little she has been picked up until very recently. But if it works in this particular composition, the attack speed scaling is just incredibly good for that one. There's really no answer here that Cloud9 has other than to just get kind of chunked. You saw Hard, and he barely took a couple of skill shots from anyone else, and all those autos, consistent damage being output, a lot more on TDK's side than Cloud9.
And you can tell Hard is a little bit gold-starved right now. He's been doing as well as Lee Sin can do, basically just being a Dragon Raid bot for majority of the past 15 or 20 minutes. But I mean, he's doing what he can in this situation with not many resources. You can tell all he has is Locket and Ruby Crystal and a Stalker Blade. That's about it.
Yeah, that's all you need, man.
I guess that's all you need as a Lee Sin.
I mean, it's you mentioned it. He kind of falls off a little bit late game, and we're approaching that. We're at that point of not so useful, and it just kind of makes you wonder, why did they take this mid-game spiking comp if they were just going to let TDK scale up? Now they did try. They got a couple of catches, but they got very afraid, I think, really earlier than they needed to, and TDK now is starting to take advantage of the fact that they just have a much better later game team. Those towers get chunked down so very fast with minimal reaction. Solo King still threatening, though. If he can get a pick off on somebody, he will take it.
Cloud9's team had a real opportunity of taking a huge advantage around the first couple of Dragon fights. I think that's what their team was built around. They have a lot of big power spikes around that time frame. But TDK got that lead early and got the first Dragon, which got rid of a window. And then they just had superior vision control from the advantage that they had gained early on.
Oh, here we go. They're going to jump in there. Cataclysm kicked out. Oh, nice Zhonya's timing. But it's going to be Seraph getting shut down by Laud. That is Hard going down as well. Here we go. The Snipes double kill, though. Goes over to Louis GG. It's a 2 for 3 so far. And Yusui gets that pickup. And they have to back away even though they still retain more members. And every one of these fights has been like this.
And they don't take the objective either that Turret is...
Not yet, though. Laud, ooh,
still standing.
Has to Valk away. I don't know if he's going to get out of this one, though. They're just all over him, and he can't get back to tower range, and now they should be able to pick this up on the next mini wave, or just tank it. Louis GG says, that's fine. I've got attack speed.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy amount of attack speed, but Conquan actually did fall in that fight, so Laud had a valiant effort to take one with him as he went down.
3 for 4, 2 for 3. 5 for 4. We've seen all these fights just consistent. Well, we haven't seen the ace, as you mentioned.
We have not seen
a single ace, and it is almost 50 minutes into this game. And it's such a conservative playstyle, but TDK, they're the much more proactive team in this sense. And it went from like 2 to 5 towers where they were down to 6 to 6 now. They've evened that up. They have a gold lead. It's still 4 to 4 in Dragons, and it's mostly been off the back of steal attempts, or 3 to 4, excuse me, in Dragons. And there's another one in a minute and a half. Baron's going to be up in 30 seconds. You know, most of those neutral objectives have been proactively driven by TDK, and whoop, Sonic Wave connects. Hard, thinking about going in, but he doesn't know where the team is. Nope, just going to clear out the vision.
We're still pretty even in this game. I mean, the later the game goes, the more the gold just doesn't matter. It's 50 minutes in. Every player is either full build or very close to full build, including supports. So when both teams are full build, it really just all comes down to positioning, team composition, and initiations. So it seems like TDK are the ones that have the majority of control over the game, at least for the past 10, 15 minutes. That's what it seems. But we know that C9 can hold their own in these fights, and if TDK has a poor engagement or C9 finds a really good engagement, this game could go either way. One ace at this point, though,
could mean a big difference.
could be game.
Yeah, at this stage, and you know, there's a couple of outer turrets remaining. There's an Azir turret destroyed. By the way, I forgot to mention, I wonder how many Azir turrets that tower score is really reflecting, because that has still not been fixed.
Yeah. Well,
It messes with you.
Yeah, it really does. It messes with you. I was counting earlier. I was like,
Wait a minute.
how do they have 6 turrets?
Yeah, so they actually had 5. They still have 5.
No, they have 4.
Oh, wait a minute. Is there? Yeah, there's another
They
at
have
the
a
bottom.
second-tier
Oh my
turret at the
goodness.
bottom and a second-tier turret at the top.
So it really looks a lot better for Cloud9 right now, but it's not.
Yeah.
The Dragon's up.
They're down 7 turrets to 6. They're in trouble.
If this game goes on for like an hour and a half, it'd be like 20 turrets destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, what?
They've killed their base twice. The game went on so long that the turrets respawned. All right, well,
It's the real dream. This Dragon is not very happy about what's going on right now. I just wanted to sit in my pit, and you're all poking me with spears. Get out of here. There we go. They're going to get the Lee Sin connection. Heart's waiting for the time to go in. Can he get the smite steal off? I don't know. The fight's going to go. Picking it, Louis GG. Heart goes too far forward, taken down. Solo King just trying to make something happen for his team, but he can't. The hook won't connect on Stixie, flashing away. It's a 2-for-none. Team Dragon Knights picking off their 5th Dragon, going Super Saiyan, and chasing Cloud9 away.
And that's a huge deal, that 5th Dragon there, plus Baron buff up, and they have a 3-man advantage at this point. Kez had to back to base, but Seraph teleports in. A Baron buff combined with that 5th Dragon buff makes for 3 minutes of hell
have to contest
for the
this.
opponent. This is just going to be huge.
They
If they
have
can't
to try
get
to steal.
this,
They can't. No,
there it is.
It's taken down. That's Kyle picking that one up as well. They don't even need the smite in either of those. So a Baron buff, a Dragon, and 2 kills taken off of that one. And now they're perfectly fine. Just need to get back and defend. They lost a tower to minions there. But TDK is looking so strong after that last set of fights.
So right now, not only do they have the Baron buff with these empowered minions, they have double the bonus of attack damage and ability power, double the movement speed, double the damage to minions and monsters, and double the turret damage. Their siege potential right now is out of control for the next few minutes. Of course, that 5th Dragon buff is temporary. You can pick it up again later on if you take another Dragon, but of course, they have a window here, a big window of opportunity where they can make big things happen, but they can't be reckless.
They are roaming a little bit further apart here, and it seems like it's settled down. They don't oh, there we go. There's Louis GG and Conquan in the middle, forcing the back. So can they stop the ports, boys? You got to try and do it. Seraph says, buy some time for my team. I must. Here we go. Tower going to get taken down. They're just shredding through the minions and the inhibitor. How much attack speed does Louis GG have? And Kez isn't even required. They're going to keep pushing in. They've stopped Lod from backing. Seraph is able to push him away, and now they have to take the long route back home. Nexus turrets now being poked down. Look at that damage. It's insane. Solo King now trying for the defense, but he can't do anything. That's going to be it. The Nexus, they're just shredding it way too fast. 54 minutes in, and TDK takes game number 1.
Wow, what a finish. And that's the power. You can see just how fast Louis GG was taking down those turrets. Every auto attack did like a third of that turret's health. It was pretty crazy. And that's just a positioning error by C9. I'm not sure what they were doing down that bot side. They might have been trying to go for like a pick or an objective trade. But when your opponent has 5 Dragon stacks plus a fresh Baron on all 5 members, that's a position that you can't be in. 3 players were caught up in transition, being pushed away by Seraph, and their base got destroyed. Nothing they could do.
How much value did they get out of the Rumble? It was targeted a little bit earlier on in the game. It got out of position a couple of times. I mean, Seraph, you know, he's had this tendency in the past when he gets focused a little bit, he loses his own focus.
Yeah.
And this time, kept a very cool head. He was able to make really good. Once he got to that later game stage, he didn't have to kill anyone. All he had to do was make sure he distracted more members than they were being distracted on the side of TDK, and they were able to pull that off. And I mean, it started with 2 members. It was just Conquan and Louis GG, and there were an inner tower, an inhibitor tower, an inhibitor, and they just
took them like 10
blew
seconds.
through it.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy. And then Kez was like, I'm here, guys, I'm helping. And he wasn't even necessary until Solo King showed up.
Yeah, so a lot of that game comes back to the early game for TDK. Having that good engagement early on down the bottom lane, being able to pick up the first blood, being able to pick up that kill and transition into a first Dragon, really helped them, because then they had timer on the second Dragon. They were able to use that advantage to gain vision control. And having a hold on that early game, stopping that team comp from C9 from doing what it seemed like it was made to do, have that early mid-game Dragon control. They outscaled, and they used that Kalista and that Azir to just finish the game. It took them a while.
Just a little bit. It seemed like they kind of got lost somewhere in the mid game, and then they let that catch up to them. Cloud9, though, they really fell into a rut, and they'll have to do a little bit better than that to come back in this game. I wouldn't be too surprised if they kind of drop the, oh, we're going to take both junglers away and not let you have anything, and go back to a more conventional strategy this time around.
Yeah, so we're already into picks and bans of game number 2 of this series. Of course, all matches today will be best of 3. And then tomorrow we'll have the semifinals, which are best of 3, and the finals, which are best of 5. But of course, again, $1,000 guaranteed for all these teams that are in the quarterfinals. They double their amount of money for every match that they win. So $2,000 to make it to the semifinals, $4,000 for second place, $8,000 for first place. So a good chunk of change before NACS starts.
A lot on the line, yeah, definitely. And TDK now on the blue side, going to get that first pick. Cloud9 have to rethink a couple of strategies that they've been doing here. I like the Thresh ban away.
Azir banned.
Yes, Azir is definitely a good ban, and they have to take away. Well, they got rid of Rek'Sai, they got rid of Kassadin, and more flex picks. Rek'Sai actually more or less decent top laner, but it's been permanently banned just for how fast it clears in the jungle for all of those other reasons. But this leaves Lissandra open. TDK can go for it, and it looks like Seraph is going to pick that up.
Yeah, we were playing the normal game yesterday, and you played jungle Rek'Sai for the first time.
Yes,
and
I did.
You're saying
this champion is so.
Why is it so
I'm
easy?
a terrible jungler, and it was so simple.
Look how much damage I'm doing.
Even you can gank with Rek'Sai. Even I can gank with Rek'Sai. It's fantastic.
That should be the PSA. Even you can successfully gank with Rek'Sai. But yeah, definitely taken off the table, and I'm sure that's going to be a trend as we go on. But still lots of high priority picks left over. Speaking of flex picks, Lissandra picked up for the side of TDK. I'm going to lean towards seeing that onto Seraph.
There's no Jace ban.
Whoa.
Yeah, TDK's like, did Narikal just get
I am 90-something% sure that we're going to see a Jace pick, yeah.
I would be pretty surprised if they don't take it on this rotation, but there are other things left on the board. Well, maybe not this rotation. Maybe they can give it up to Yusui and try to bait it out because there's always counter picks available, but Cloud9's not interested in taking this. They're thinking about other things, and TDK goes for the Lee Sin lock in this time. They want to keep the intrigue of where is the Lissandra going, right? But yeah, it's really, really curious what Cloud9 is prioritizing here, and the fact that they've left Jace up, either that means they forgot about it, or they just think they can handle it.
You can't rush through picks like this when you have like a high priority pick that's left open for your team, because you still have to keep in mind how the rest of your team rounds off. They're not going to single-handedly win a game because they get a Jace. They still have to have a well-rounded team comp, and if they weren't planning on picking that early on in their picks and bans, like if they said, well, we have the option of picking Jace or Lissandra first, and Jace and Lissandra don't necessarily mesh well together, because you want like a high burst damage up front in your face type of mid laner to go along with Lissandra if it's in top lane.
It's true. And they also have the Lee Sin that kind of would indicate that strategy as well. So there you go. Instantly Corki lock in. And the Graves was on the other side. We have seen a lot of Graves recently. It's been a huge resurgence, kind of taking the place of Lucian, a little bit more of I would say a better team fighter in this kind of bursty meta that we're in, where you want to blow people up as fast as possible, but for whatever reason, assassins haven't been picked for that because they're all banned.
Yeah. Well, they actually do end up picking up the Jace, so this team comp is not as well-rounded, I think, as their team comp in the last game. They have some identity crises at some point.
Cloud9 too, though. The Janna is always a first pickup, but to combine it with an Orianna with a Jarvan is kind of anti-synergy.
Yeah, I think Janna is just overall a strong pick, so you don't necessarily have to worry about anti-synergy with Monsoon or with Cataclysm. You notice in the last game, Stixie used Monsoon as like a way to disengage bad engagements or a way to just heal up in downtime of a team fight instead of like a way to have like a big like fight-changing Monsoon. So I think people are picking it just because of how strong it is overall and not much worrying about like the anti-synergy with some jungle champions. But I like the lineups from both. Kyle, we're going to get to see his Jace, which is a treat. It really is.
Oh, yeah. And he has played magnificently on it. Just when you put that many games on a champion, you just kind of put your name out there and say, this is what I can do, this is what I'm known for, and we'll get to see it this time. As you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mesh quite so well with what they want to do, but Jace can still get into your face. He's a transformer. Here goes Hammer Form to start this one off. Game number 2, TDK is up 1. If they take this next game, they move on to that next round and double their prize money up to $2,000. Cloud9's at least going to walk away with something here, but they are wanting some more. This is their first tournament that they've competed in since forming this challenger roster. And all these players have a lot of experience that they want to utilize to take a big W here, but still playing very much afraid of TDK's hyper-aggressive and controlling map movements.
It's a very delicate team comp for TDK. They don't have much room for error here. With a really squishy backline and really fickle initiation, and pretty much just Lissandra or pick-offs with Lee Sin. Because they're going up against a lineup in C9, which is heavily focused around mid-game team fights. It's really explosive. You trap people in with Cataclysm. You throw down the Equalizer. It's an age-old combination that goes as far back as since Rumble was released. And then you have the Shockwave and Graves, who has some of the highest burst potential of any AD carry early on going into the mid-game. So they really have to be careful not to go into initiations where they're going to get punished. And that's what I mean by delicate, is that they really have to just watch what they're doing in the mid-game, or they just have to come out of the laning phase with a big advantage.
Yeah, this time we're going to see a really similar start to the last game. No shenanigans pulled by either team. Last time could be excused by maybe a little bit more of a feeling it out kind of mentality, but this time I think both teams have a good handle on what they're doing, what they're up against. Claude and Stixie going to be taking the Gromp to start this one off. Actually took a lot of damage from it collectively. They juggled the aggro, but they should be able to heal that one up. No real big surprises here. Solo King is going for a very defensive start on Rumble, though, with the Doran Shield.
Yeah, sort of has to, because Lissandra can put out a lot of auto-attack harass. She can be pretty suffocating in lane if she gets ahead, if she can get some damage on you early on. And Rumble is pretty susceptible to just being shit out in general by ranged champions. That's one of his weaknesses. He has he can do more with less, because Equalizer is still going to pump out so much damage in the mid game, and you're sort of relying on that initiation that he can come out of lane being 10 or 20 CS down and still be just as effective as his counterpart. But he just has to make sure that he tries to stay safe and pick up as much CS as possible in a rough matchup.
It makes you wonder why he went for the Rumble in this situation. I suppose it synergizes well with the comp, but wait a minute, Kez coming around, finds hard. Wait, you got some double buffs, I want to reset. Burns his flash, can he connect? Oh, no, he doesn't get the flash off. Now that's just got to be rough, but Kez comes on forward and picks up first blood. Yusui is not able to respond.
And in a way, I think that's actually better. I think it was good that Kez failed his flash, because
the only time that is ever a good thing.
Because it gave Kyle the kill, which gives him double buffs, which helps him get ahead in this lane. That's huge for Jace to have double buffs early on. Especially a guy that mains Jace, that became popular because he streamed only playing Jace.
Well, now he's got double buffs.
And now he's got double buffs.
Yusui is just like shaking his head silently.
Hard, please.
A little bit of a rough start for the Orianna, but it's a very safe lane in general, and they're trading even in CS so far, so it really hasn't become a big liability. But I mean, this is rough for Hard. He's in a situation where now he has to catch back up, and you know, admittedly, Jarvan has a little bit more late game utility than Lee Sin, so this game, this time around, it's not going to punish him so much. But yeah, now he's going to try to make a play, try to get back there, but Kez has already smited down his own blue buff, and it just seems like the disparity between these junglers and their positioning is kind of night and day. But here we go, Kez going forward onto Yusui. He doesn't realize Hard is there, burning away. Hard's looking to avenge his earlier death, get his double buffs back if he can, but Jace is already long gone.
That's actually a really big pickup there, because Kyle actually used, so we could see some kills. No.
Louis was a little ham there.
Yeah, Kyle actually used his flash to pick up those double buffs with that kill. So he was down a Summoner in lane, so he was actually in a position where, in order to sort of reduce the threat of a successful gank, he had to go aggressive and force Yusui to build that Summoner. So that was a really good job by him, and now he's going to have a pretty big advantage in that lane. Yusui,
yeah, it's, Louis GG is just, this guy doesn't afraid of anything, and he's trusting Conquan to be able to sustain him up, but here Stixie's able to put some good poke out on him. Law just is dodging quite a lot of the phosphorus bombs, and getting out of the range of fire and really just playing this laning phase a lot better, it looks like. But, you know, health bars can be deceiving.
Graves can be really scary. He's a sort of a caster AD with a little bit more burst potential, and he scales so well with the Janna shield because Janna shield gets put on him, a buckshot plus a couple auto attacks, and all of a sudden you're at half health. That's the power of it, and they sort of have to play aggressively in this lane to sort of counteract the sustain that comes out from TDK. So you have to use Janna's shield sort of aggressively. You can't use it to sort of predict damage. You have to use it to go aggressive. Oh, Yusui.
Yep, speaking of aggressive, Chilling Smite was down. They kick him back. No! He's safe, actually. Kyle wanted to make up for that as he knocked him away. Didn't have enough damage to pull off Yusui, but bit of a misplay there. Still sitting with a slight lead, TDK, but it is not as big as it would seem.
I don't know what happened with those guys there. It seemed like Kez was trying to be a nice guy and give the kill over to Kyle. He pulled off and missed a couple auto attacks as he pulled off. I'm not sure if he was afraid of taking turret shots, but they definitely could have picked up that kill and just missed an opportunity. Still, though, pushes Yusui out of lane, gives Kyle a little bit more of a CS lead, and he's starting to stack up
here too. Yeah, I mean, he's not really been able to get much in his jungle. He is leading in CS, and you know he's got slightly better item choice. But also, to note, he doesn't go for the Stalker's Blade. He's opting for the Hatchet. When you're Ranger's Trailblazer.
When you're behind, and you know that you're not going to be going for ganks, Ranger's Trailblazer is actually fantastic because it allows you to catch up and farm. And of course, if you're behind in that game, your jungle camps give XP relative to the to like your level, so you gain more XP for how far you are behind in the game sense. So he'll be able to, with that Ranger's Trailblazer, clear quicker and get a catch up to Kez if he hasn't already in like experience.
Yeah, speaking of the CS game, they're both pretty even team-wise. They're both really kind of at the same place with that, but look at this. C9 this time, going to try to grab the early dragon for themselves. Only Stixxay and Hard are here, and as tanky as Jarvan is, this is still a very close thing to do, and they're not realizing this is happening. TDK does get a solo kill onto Yusui in the mid, though. Excuse me, not a solo kill. Seraph was right there. So that will be the price of their dragon, but they do take it down. Should be revealed as Conquan was there to spot the buff up on Laud.
Looks like our observer might have gotten a little bit confused there. We're watching Team Dragon Knights, not Team Dragon.
Huh! You got me. Huh! That was beautiful.
That was a bash at the observing skills.
He's gonna just like zoom it around the map now just to mess with us.
Yeah. Well, it's still though it's a big pickup once again, forcing Yusui not only out of lane but giving another kill over to Kyle. And
yep, here
Sarah
we go.
Could be in trouble.
Ooh! Wow, he manages the long range glacial path, gets himself out of danger. I didn't even know you could go over that particular stretch of the wall.
You could do some tricky things.
You really can. Seraph knows it inside and out.
Yeah.
He's able to get out.
And with abilities like that, if you make it like halfway over the wall, you make it all the way over the wall.
It's true.
Because it's not like Flash where it's like instant. There's a little bit of like leeway with how far you can make it over, because what if you use it and then it just puts you back in the same spot? It just doesn't work like that.
A little bit more clarity in the interaction path-wise. Louis GG's caught up himself in farm, but gotta be careful. Look at that Laud just chunking him out. Heal is on. Oh! Exhaust is down. He's already used his collateral damage, and here we go. Solo King, they're pushed back. Stixxay, nice use of the Monsoon. Conquan now looks to follow, and I think that's going to be it. Stixxay picking up the kill credit for that one. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Yusui in a little bit of trouble. Here we go. Shockwave is on, but it doesn't even matter. Kyle is going to pick that one up as well. So the answer right on back.
So with Seraph getting forced out solo up in that top lane, he actually used his teleport to get back to not fall further behind. So that opened up an opportunity for Solo King to get down there and pick up a couple kills. Now, that's great and all, but there's a bigger problem at hand for C9 here. With a 3-0 Narakal on that Jace in the mid lane, Yusui is having a very rough game. Now, Yusui is a very consistent player in my eyes, at least from what I've seen, and he's one of the few remaining players who still plays Orianna regularly at a very, very high level. So I know, I'm not sure how much tilt is going to play into effect here for him, but we'll have to see, because getting killed over and over again and feeling like there's just no hope for you in a lane, even with Hard having a little bit of jungle pressure here, it really feels bad.
Well, Hard's more often than not been playing the cleanup duty. He's coming in when Yusui has already had to back or he's already died, and it just seems like they don't quite have their timings down. You mentioned C9, the very new team together. They're experienced players, but they just may not have their comms, their coordination down the way TDK seems to in this situation.
Definitely, and it's going to be tough to tell who's going to come out on top in this mid game, because there is a dragon buff over there for C9, so not sure how much that's going to play into effect in going into this mid game. But I said before, this team comp from C9 was heavily built around strong engagements in the mid game. Cataclysm combined with Equalizer, and then the upfront damage from Orianna Shockwave plus Graves Buckshot collateral damage can just wreck a team fight if they catch multiple members in that sort of combo. But right now it just doesn't seem like they're in a position where they can safely fight because of how much problems Kez is causing from this jungle and how much problems Kyle is causing from this mid lane. His turret's down, he can start roaming around the map. They always have to be wary of where he is at all times.
Doesn't want to take the little wolf.
No.
It's like I'll give Hard something.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. I mean, you don't get the timer, but you're denying a lot from him. And if on the off chance he was down on the up on the top side of the map, and he didn't clear that wolf for a while, that experience can add up. The jungle timers are longer now. The small camps take a while to respawn, so overall, denying camps can be a pretty big dent in the enemy jungler's experience.
Kez has been a pretty solid counter jungler too, and this has been to Hard's detriment throughout the series so far. Whoa, Yusui. Jeez, Kyle's big. That's just a brutalizer and a Manamune.
Watching fantastic Jace players is a sight to behold. The damage potential is just so fantastic.
It's shocking.
It is. It's very shocking. Good one.
Ah. You're welcome.
I'll be using that one.
Now you can have it. Kyle able to put a little bit of pressure on this mid and just continues to lane it out. It's one of those weird situations in the game where like some lanes are still fighting it out, other lanes have already been finished, and they just kind of default to laning again rather than trying to grab anything on the map. I mean, Dragon's down, so there's really no reason for the next 30 seconds for TDK to really go for anything. They didn't get the exact timer on it, as Kez kind of visited about a minute after it was taken. So Cloud9 has that stealthy advantage, the fact that they know the exact timer, but they've given up a lot of map control, especially in the mid here, and Yusui is just not having a good game. Yes, he's got his Morellonomicon, so he's been able to keep up in the farm game and stay relevant, but it just seems like he is playing with a bit of diminished confidence, as you mentioned he might.
And it's a little bit unfair to him, because he didn't really have a say in him getting behind. It's nearly impossible to be even or come ahead in a game where you're facing an already rough matchup, but he's got a kill lead and double buffs without you being able to do anything about it. So he's doing what he can. And what he can is not much, but you can't really blame him.
Well, of course, a good Orianna can always save the best for a lot later on. And, you know, you mentioned it's a lot about that wombo combo, but here we go. They've got to stay alive for it. Hard just gets blown up, and the wave washes over his corpse. Dragon is live. What terrible timing for Cloud9 G2A.
And Stixie falling pretty low as well.
Up.
Does have flash.
Monsoon. Oh, here we go. He's going to follow it. No! Flash away Stixie. I don't think he's going to live through this one. Kez is actually going to burn his own teleport now. Solo King says, no, we're going to fight this one out. Louis GG going to have to burn his own to get over the wall. And an over-aggressive move by TDK gets punished. But meanwhile, Kyle's still going to grab a tower in the mid. They're going to start this dragon up. So they still get plenty for it.
This is just getting out of control right now for Cloud9 to be able to deal with TDK. They have to use a teleport defensively in that situation and don't get anything out of it. They save probably maybe a kill or two, but that's it. That allows Seraph to get ahead in CS in the top lane, push the wave into the turret, deny a couple. And also, since Hard went down, Yusui didn't have any help for a matchup that he's already so far behind in. And actually, he died.
Yeah.
So, and then that just happened in all of the chaos. He died.
He just. I don't think he realized he was just standing there like,
yeah. So
okay.
that allowed Kyle his fourth kill of the game. Not only that, but allowed him to get that second tier turret. So this is a 4K gold lead.
Kyle has 100% kill participation. Most of that is because most of the kills have been in mid lane.
All the kills have been in mid lane.
With a couple of jungle side ones.
Yeah,
it's just... And he could have had even more when you think about it. There was a couple of misplays here. I mean, TDK, they're banking very heavily on Kyle's Jace. But, I mean, if there's one champion you want to bank on for him, that's the one to do it. And C9 is in a rut now. They have to try to find a way to get a little bit back in. They're not super far behind in this game. Apart from that, they're down a decent bit of gold, even if most of it is still sitting on the Jace. But, you know, you let somebody who's that comfortable snowball, it's very, very difficult to play against.
Oh, for sure. Especially when Kyle probably has more experience than almost any other player in the world with being ahead on Jace. Like, he knows how to capitalize on an advantage better than most players just because of how much experience he has with that champion. So you know that he's going to just shove you down the lane so many times.
Well, and this is the thing. You can't even engage on him because as long as they keep their distance, the shock blasts just get more and more deadly, and they don't even have to use the hard engage that they have. So it was a gambit to try and see if they didn't have to go full committal with what they built into their comp, and they really don't have to right now. They can just utilize... Ooh, wait a minute. Teleport coming up. They want to look to see if they can cut off Stixie. They should be able to do it. The wave's going to go. The tower's on. Oh, my goodness. Louis GG still taking quite a lot from Laud, but they combo it up the kick into the rocket, and they take that kill as well as finding Stixie. That was, of course, Seraph managing to grab that one, and then they're going to be able to polish off the tower clean through the jungle as well.
Such a huge pickup by TDK right there, just pushing down their advantage here. And they finally pick up some kills without much help from Kyle in that situation, and Seraph finally getting to use his teleport in an aggressive situation. Uh-oh, Kyle,
yeah,
he's got a lot of gold on his head.
He could get shut down, though. There's the Flash Cataclysm. He doesn't have a way to escape, and he gets shut down by Solo King, and there's the misplay.
That's what I was saying, not much room for error, and even though they're so far ahead, they still can get comboed by this big team fight heavy team from C9. We've seen it before. One shockwave later on in the game, once Yusui starts to get going, can completely change a fight. That's going to take a couple at this point because of how far they are behind, but they do have one dragon under their belt. They did get that bounty gold from Kyle onto a champion that really needs it in Solo King, who's a key in this team comp right now because of how much damage he puts out, especially with that level 11 power spike. Still could go Cloud9's way if they can find some good fights.
But how about that backing animation for the Orianna?
Yeah. That skin creeps me out a little bit. I'm not gonna
Really?
lie.
I think it's adorable. All the little poros just following you around.
It's pretty cute, but
How do you not like that?
she's using a robot Poro
That's true. No, it's like it's just the ball is painted to look like a poro.
as a death.
Oh, yeah, she is a weapon.
Use a weapon.
Anyways, the jungle's just getting a little crazy right now. Kez continues to take away camps from Hard. Now the red buff looks to be in contest here, and it's really the simplest thing to fight over right now, but gotta be careful. They don't know where Seraph is. Now they do. I don't really know if they can check into the shock blasts. They're just starting to really sting. And whoa, they've caught Solo King Frozen Tomb on, and they burst him down. Now they can start pushing this tower. That's the trigger for Kyle to go ahead and take this red, maybe give it over to Kez. Nope, he's going to grab it for himself. He'll be able to push in this one. However, Laud, Hard, and Yusui are all here to defend, but they're going to back away from the claw.
Yeah, he pushes them away just with the threat of him going in. Now, I don't think he would have been able to do that much without that Frozen Tomb available, but it really is a lot of weapons here for these guys. Every player on their team has the top laner, the mid laner, and the AD carry all have potential to do just so much damage. And you can definitely tell TDK is in definite control of this match. Oh, Seraph.
He could be in a little bit of trouble here. There is a pretty big hit squad coming after him. The bounty is on. They want that blue buff. Gonna knock him up. He's got a flash and he uses it. Trying to Ice Claw his way out. He might just find his way back to tower. Can he pull it off? No, Laud with a big crit.
Yeah, that's gonna... you can never rely on a crit there, but almost an escape from Seraph. But I mean, it's just a drop in the bucket right now for C9. They're still about 6K gold in the deficit. And it's still going to be a tough road for them. Dragon is spawning in about 10 seconds. They have a power play available to them, it being a 4v5 situation. But still, even with that, I don't think they have what it takes to be able to take a team fight, even in a 4v5 situation. And they know if they're keeping timers that Seraph Teleport is about to be up. So it'll be scary for them to venture into the jungle.
Yeah, and what's really scary about the way their positioning was that tower that just got taken by C9 was their first tower of the game. Now Dragon being started up by TDK, they just burst it down so fast. They love these quick pushing compositions. They're able to grab a Dragon right there. Nicely done. And TDK still rocking a pretty decent sized lead here, about 5,500 gold ahead of their opponents at 22 minutes in.
Yeah, this is... I'm really impressed with TDK so far, and I think they're going to be one of the teams to watch. Now, both these teams have pretty new rosters, and if you look at like total experience among these guys, TDK actually has a little bit more than C9.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like just because of the name recognition, you think C9 has a little bit more of an edge, but of course, these players are, you know, they have different strengths, different weaknesses, and TDK, they have this more synergy that they've been exposing that Cloud9 is lacking here.
Yeah, definitely. Seraph has LCS experience, Kez has LCS experience, Kyle is an up-and-comer, and he has experience in challenger level of solo queue in Korea. So that's a lot. LuisXGG subbed for an OGN team in the degenerate Greenwind Falcons. And of course, Conquan's been around for a while, so the only player really with even anywhere close to that much experience is probably Laud, who's been in the challenger scene for a long time and has played on a stage before, so it just seems like their team synergy overall is a little bit better. But both these guys have some things to work on, but I'm looking forward to watching these guys. But we still have some game left, and Cloud9 still has something left in the tank here. If they can find a good fight, they still might be able to turn it because of how strong their team fight composition is.
But they have to go in now, and that's what they're going to do. There we go. Shockwave delivery onto Hard, but they didn't catch who they needed. Kyle's going to pick him off. There we go. Seraph actually making it out alive. And they trade one for none. The tower siege has stalled for now. Whoa, Seraph with the escapes.
Yeah, blinking health bar. I think that was sub 10 health. And Kyle actually came into that one full health, so C9 cannot stick around because those Last Whisper, Brutalizer, Shockwaves are really hurting. And so even though they don't come out too far ahead of that team fight, TDK still manages to get an objective off of it, increases their lead by a little bit more, and they're just starting to ramp up even heavier into this. I guess it's still mid-game. This has been a lot faster pace of a game. Last game, it was both teams had 60,000 gold at 40 minutes. And now TDK already has 40,000 gold at 25 minutes, so there's a lot more gold being floated around in this game than there was in the last one in general.
Absolutely, but TDK is still the beneficiary of quite a lot more, and that just speaks to how far ahead they are in towers. Still a slight edge in dragons as well, but you know they just know how to take objectives and know how to find those timing windows a lot better than C9 G2A have been able to.
So one interesting pickup here, LuisXGG with the creative builds, haunting guys on Corki. Now this allows for his missiles hurt a little bit more. He's primarily, well not primarily, but he's one of the heavier magic damage AD carries out there because of Phosphorus Bomb and the missile spam. So I guess they're really going for that siege potential with the Sork Boots and the haunting guys. It just allows him quite a bit more poke and just burst, I guess.
And they have so much AD already with Kyle alone that they don't necessarily need a lot more. And they have a Lee Sin. So to mix it up like that, I think makes a lot of sense in this regard, considering how fed Kyle is. They're going to actually start off this Baron with 2 members. They're trusting Narco. There we go. They're helping just a little bit. Here comes Kez. The Baron's actually taking a little while, and the Howling Gale doesn't quite connect, and they won't quite know, but they're going to peel off of it.
I'm not sure
that
what
was strange.
That was. Because Louis XGG was over the wall, so was Concord. Oh, here we go.
Solo King, Frozen Tube, and he's blown up before the Monsoon can heal him. The wave out on Laud, and Louis GG is going to just Valk over and try to take a couple of pot shots. They do take one and start to siege down middle.
So despite having a rough Baron engagement, I guess is the only way to say that, they still managed to find a pick, which their team comp definitely excels at, and they're just going to turn one kill into maybe even an inhibitor, and Hardy, he flag and drags over the wall, but finds himself.
He just revealed himself there, and they just were able to pick him off. I mean, so quick are they able to grab objectives, able to grab kills. The inhibitor goes down 26 minutes in. TDK starting to run away with this game. Laud, he has to go back to Fountain again.
One shock blast to the face, and he's like, here we go again.
Pretty soon it's going to be one-shotting. This is why they don't need any extra AD, Azumo. They've got so much in one champion.
Yeah, Cows has been doing work so far this game, but at this point you got to think, what can C9 do to pull themselves back in? And I'm sort of struggling for answers. They could find a good team fight, but even with a decent initiation like we saw down at their bot side turret, they still couldn't even trade evenly, let alone come out ahead. And the further this game progresses, the more TDK is just pushing their advantage. And that goes back a little bit to that Haunted Guys pickup by Corky, by Louis XGG, because it just allows him to poke more, which increases their siege potential, which they know the way they're going to win this game is by sieging. The way that they're going to win this game is by focusing on those lane objectives, those turrets.
And they just keep trying to find picks here. Look at that. They spend the Cataclysm on Kez. They're going to use the Tidal Wave as well. Now Solo King, he's in trouble. There's Seraph going to pick off Yusui while all the craziness is happening. Solo King, double kill going over to Seraph. They're going to look for more Laud. He has got a flash out of this one, but they can still chase him, and Ignite just might do it. No, it doesn't, but Seraph, he's hungry for triples, and he wants to look for that last one. The chase is still going. He's like, well, I need a claw, guys. I need a claw. There we go. Oh, it's juked. And he actually might get out of this one. Laud still trying to run away, puts down the pink ward, and he'll have quick draw up if he doesn't quite yet. This is actually one of the longest chases I've seen in just a while. Aggro's the blue buff, tries to lifesteal a bit off it, but that might be his undoing. Nope, he's going to dash away. There we go. And not quite a triple, unofficially goes over. TDK, though, now starts off this Baron. There's no reaction available because Cloud9 has to defend their mid against the super minion wave, and this is going to be the first Baron. Well, execution on Kez, though, so they're not going to get it for free.
Gets a little bit too close there, but they still managed to pick it up. I guess Kez is not going to get it. That was a pretty funny
this is
ward.
A teleport.
Yeah, I'm not...
Solo
I guess,
King, what are you doing?
Well, this is a... I guess Laud placed that ward for the sole purpose of allowing Solo King to teleport, either to help him out or to try and stop a a Baron. Maybe even like steal one or try and pick off some low health targets, but unfortunately it comes in too late. And that pick ward's probably going to last for a while, though, because it's in a really awkward spot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he figured, well, you put it down, I might as well spend my teleport, put all the effort. But another dragon taken by Team Dragon Knight, so I guess that's living up to the name.
They've had the dragon lead in both games, so.
It's true. They've been prioritizing it. They did give up the first one this time around, though. Cloud9 was able to do that sneaky early one, so that was nicely played, but...
There might be a stipulation of their contracts.
They have to go for dragons.
If you don't get a dragon every game, you're fired.
That's a harsh contract, man.
Yeah, those would be the kind of contracts I make.
I mean...
That's why I would never
I feel like
be a
you
good
could fill it up like 90% of the time, but then there's going to be that one game, and then, oh...
You're fired!
You know, guys, you won Worlds, but you didn't get a dragon, so bye.
Yeah, good job, guys. You qualified for the North American LCS, but in your qualifying game, you didn't get a dragon, so... You're all fired.
Then they get a new roster.
Yeah. That'd be awful.
It's pretty cool that they all speak Korean in comms, though. I mean, that's like...
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting story. And whoa, jeez, Stixay.
Yeah, and they still...
It's good to share a language. I mean, everyone can speak English for the most part, and in most of the comps that we see in these games,
yeah.
in the North American Challenger scene, but to have like that much proficiency in another language as well, I mean, just indicates the communication's pretty good. Now, speaking of pretty good, Team Dragon Knights here. This is their big moment to shine if they can take this one out. Seraph gets the shutdown on Yusui. They've already picked off hard. Laud, he's going low. Double kill goes over to Louis GG. It's only Stixie remaining, well, along with Solo King, but it may not be for longer. Shock Blast, there we go. Kyle thinking about the fountain dive, and that is going to be it. That is going to be 2-0. That Nexus just goes down so fast, and it took him only 30 minutes this time, but TDK takes the 2-0 over Cloud9 G2A.
Such an impressive performance by these guys. The first game, they struggled a little bit, maybe getting a little bit warmed up, but these guys are definitely a team to watch. And there was a lot of hype surrounding the Cloud9 B team. Of course, Cloud9 such a long-standing and strong organization. Of course, they're going to pick up good players, and their lineup seems stacked on paper, but I guess just having Laud moving from mid lane to AD carry, having Stixie move from AD carry to support, having a brand new lineup, they're going to need some time to work on some of their weaknesses as a team. And you can see a little bit of indecisiveness, some communication issues. They played pretty well, but MSI TDK definitely the better team in that series.
Absolutely. So we'll see how they do progressing in this tournament. Unfortunately, that means Cloud9 G2A, they're knocked out. It's going to be $1,000 for them. They will take that consolation prize. And then MSI TDK moves on to our round of 4, and when they will face off against the winner of our next match, it is going to be Ground 6 and Team 3-2-1. We'll see who takes that one. Will it be the remnants of Azingi's team, or do you think G6 can fly?
Well, G6, of course, the former Team Fear. They just switched names. We're not sure why. Maybe we'll get some more info on that one on the break. But
I just wanted a cooler name, I guess.
We'll see. It should be a big matchup. There's a lot of big name players, and I'm really excited for it.
Absolutely. So, guys, with that, we're going to take a quick break, about 10 minutes or so. When we return, we will bring you that next match. Stay tuned for all the action today. You're watching the ESL Pro Series Season 11 here on ESL TV.